Welcome back to the Irish Mags Show. It is episode 81. We are 81 weeks old, technically. It feels like we're 81 years old, but that is what happens when you hang around with the likes of Mr. Alan Williamson and Mr. Chris O'Martin. Lads, how are you doing?
How are we, lads? How are we? I'm all good.
Good. Very good. Look at this sexy stuff. People on YouTube watching, check out my sexy new long sleeve jersey. Al doesn't like long sleeve jerseys, but this is sexy, guys, right? Come on. And who have I got in the back of it? Take a guess who I've got in the back of it. Go on, take a guess.
I won't because I know.
I already know as well. So only the
there's no guess. Well, I've got Joe Linton on the back.
Is he Brazilian and did he cost 40 million?
Yeah. So yeah,
I have to say, in fairness,
it's nice.
Long sleeve. The one thing about long sleeve, like I wouldn't be a fan of them either because I'm just perennially warm. But long sleeve jerseys are a throwback. Do players even wear them anymore? I can't name one. Is there a Newcastle player that wears a long sleeve? Do they even give them the option, or you just?
I don't think they get the option.
No, do you not think so? In the wintertime,
you kind of feel like Anthony Gordon could walk in and be like, lads, I could do with a long sleeve kit, and Tyndall would just be like, you can go and fuck yourself now with your long sleeve.
You can do it a haircut.
You definitely need a haircut.
But like the Champions League badge looks really nice.
That is the touch in fairness. Yeah.
I love
respect for the Champions League badge.
Yes.
I mean, we all hope that Joe Linton doesn't. There's some very loose links of Joe Linton going to Saudi, but
no way.
It's not happening. Like, it hasn't a notion. I really don't think so.
I'll jump in here. Tell me it's not happening. This is ridiculous. There's no way he's going to anywhere.
Well, I caused ructions in the group chat yesterday by saying, devil's advocate, he's missed 24 games in the last 2 seasons. If a bid came in, and you could,
but if a bid comes in, it's basically from our own ownership, and exactly. I mean, to be honest, for the Twitter alone,
70 million or something like that, you'd be very hard pressed to go.
No way.
He's only signed. Didn't he only sign a contract last summer as well? Like, it's not that long ago. So.
Yeah, it's a year or two ago. But
so on the podcast, Al, you're saying that if a 70 million bid came in tomorrow for Joe Linton, you'd take it.
I'd snap the hand off you for 70 million.
No, he is the heart and soul of the fucking team.
I've said yes, 100%. He's absolutely sensational for that field. But £70 million for a 29-year-old.
Nobody's bid.
Exactly, that's what I mean. Like,
not even the Saudis. Yeah.
That, like, you cannot turn down money like that. That's why people have to take off these lovable blinders as if we can never sell a player. If someone comes in with an offer that's absolutely silly for the player, you accept that you've reinvested. Look at what Villa did with the Grealish money. Look, Liverpool are buying players with the Coutinho money. Like, they're going to buy Isak with him now and all from it. So, like, you have to just reinvest the money. That's what lads have to realize.
If the price is right. So if there's any podcasts out there that want to offer us an obscene amount of money to buy Crisho, we will definitely consider the offer in great depth.
€3.
€3 a week.
But a couple of bags of crisps and we'll probably meet in the middle somewhere. But before, we've introduced Christian Adam. My name is Paul. I am obviously the host for today, and we'll try and rein it back in. But before we do all that, the Irish Mags are proudly sponsored by Flagman Ireland, who specialize in quality, digitally printed, personalized flags, bunting, tablecloths, table flags, and hand wavers. Their online store also stocks and sells a wide range of international and domestic flags, including the government Irish tricolour and including the Irish Mags flag selection, which is the most impressive flag selection you'll ever come across.
It is.
New flags coming soon.
Eyes emoji. We might have an exclusive coming soon for new flags. Our designers are in full working mode this summer. If you have any flag needs, head on over to flagsireland.com. Enough about flags, though, lads. We have other things to flag. I think so. In the next week or two, listeners, exclusive, we're going to have a specific specialized transfer show with a special guest who has his or her eyes and ears to the ground, fingers in many pies. It's not Crisho lying under Miguel Almiron's house or hanging around Dan Ashworth's garden. It's actually someone who might know something. And that's coming up in the next week or two. But because there's a lot going on this week, I think it's worth talking about even today. And I tell you what, lads, I follow Fabrizio Romano on Twitter, and that man does not sleep, and he obviously has a team of people tweeting on his behalf. But it is nice to see Fabrizio Romano tweeting about Newcastle United, and it's been a long time since he's tweeted about Newcastle United. So we're probably going to spend most of the show having a little chat about some of the rumored transfers, maybe questioning whether we're on board with some of them for the prices, the money that's going around. And I think we should have a little chat then about the social media reaction, because for me, it's an interesting dynamic how we react when clubs are linked with our players versus how we react when clubs reject our signings.
Yes.
But we're going to do it in a very logical and positive manner, as we always do on the Irish Mags show. Alan, let's start with, for me, we said this last week, if not the week before, the most likely deal, which is increasingly growing in momentum, it's James Trafford. And I think, I mean, we said this, I said this, I predicted this would be our first signing. I think it's the most logical signing. There is a need there. I know people have question marks over should we be spending money here. For me, this is a deal that's been in the pipeline for about a year, maybe 2 years. This was never not going to happen in terms of us trying to sign a goalkeeper. But Romano is saying that the personal terms are apparently agreed, which back in my day, I remember Ashley Cole moving from Arsenal to Chelsea, and the thought of a club talking to a player before the fee was agreed was like it would cause World War III. Apparently now you can agree terms no problem without even agreeing a fee. It's funny how things have changed. But long story short, I think this deal is happening. Is it happening?
All signs point yes that it's going to happen. Like Fabrizio said, that it's progressing. We've agreed terms, and it's just waiting on the final figure to be agreed. Seemingly, Burnley are holding out for between 35 and 40 million. Newcastle want to pay between 25 and 30. I can see it being 30 million with add-ons, bringing it to in and around 35, depending on what he does, how he does, and when he does it. But for the people who are saying we don't need a goalkeeper, we said the same thing when we signed Dubravka, and we all suddenly went, oh, he's much, much better. We didn't realize we needed a goalkeeper. Then we signed Pope, and we were like, oh, he's much, much better. I didn't realize we needed a goalkeeper. And now we're signing another keeper, and I'm firmly believing that we'll go, oh, he's much, much better. We all knew we needed a goalkeeper who could play football with his feet. Like, let's be honest about it. It's clear we need an upgrade in the area. Trafford has potential to be our goalkeeper for the next 15 seasons. He's 22, I think, 21. He's only a kid. Like, his best years are arguably 10 years away from him, and we have him for that entire length of time. If he costs us 40 million and he plays for us for 10 seasons, that's a bargain. We spent money on worse players, so I don't see it being a bad deal. I think it's a very, very good deal for someone who is going to be very, very good and has an absolutely massive ceiling. So
I think the thing here is, and Krisho, you know, we're from a specific generation as well, but there's actually a relatively small handful of goalkeepers that have ever moved for more than 30 million. Like, it's funny to think about it, but like Donnarumma, not Donnarumma, Buffon went back in the day, like 25 years ago, for a really high fee. It was like 30, 40 million. But this is fucking Buffon. Like, this is like world-class goalkeeper. Ederson, Alisson, you know, back in the day, Craig Gordon broke the British record when Roy Keane signed him for the fucking Mackhams. Like, this is, you know, goalkeepers at that price it's not that common. We talked about Caoimhin Kelleher recently. Alan, I know you're not a huge fan of Caoimhin Kelleher, but, you know, for a player who I would say is on par with Trafford. Trafford has one season in the Premier League, didn't do great, was in a shit team. Kelleher was in an amazing team, did okay, played about 10, 12 games or whatever it was in the league. I don't think it's going to reach 40 million, but Krisho, I think that's people's beef, is that I don't think anyone's questioning Trafford's quality or potential. It's the price. And what also is a bit peeving, let's say, is we probably could have had him for 20 million this time last year.
Yeah, look.
And now it's probably 30, 35.
Yeah, okay, look, again, like Al said, it's a bargain over 10, 15 years. I was speaking to some Liverpool fans, you know, outside of General or something. I'm not sure where they were coming out of. They were coming out of somewhere, in an alleyway. They had said that Alisson was a lot of money, right? It was 65 million pounds or 60 million pounds, something like that, right? And they all agreed. all 6 of them, they all agreed that he was one of the key elements of why they've won 2 Premier Leagues in the last couple of years, is the goalkeeper. And the way he commanded behind Van Dijk, how he played it out, how much confidence they had in him playing every game. And I think that even if we have to stretch it another 10 million pounds or whatever it is, look at the way I see it, Al, you're right. It's going to be 33 million pounds plus a couple of add-ons, or 30 million pounds plus a couple of add-ons. He wants to come. Eddie wants him. He's going to be challenging for number 1. He's going to be the number 1. I didn't realize he was 7 foot tall either. He's 6'6". He's 6'6", isn't he, or something like that, right? I've seen him play the ball out. He's excellent, right? But the point I was making, is just that if buying a goalkeeper and spending that much money on, he could be the foundation for us to have a much better defensive record and to play much quicker, much more attacking football straight off as soon as we get back possession. So I just think, and I think we had discussed this a couple of weeks ago, let's just go and get him. Whatever it is, just give Burnley the money. Just give them 30 odd million pound and let's just get him, because it looks to me like Eddie's getting a bit, I don't know, maybe a bit antsy to get some players in before they head off for their pre-season, and at least getting the goalkeeper in would be a good start. I don't know about you, Pedro. I don't know about Elanga or anybody else, but I definitely think the Trafford thing is in the bag, and we definitely have to go out and get him, because it's going to make us a proper top 5, top 4 team for the next 10 years.
I agree, and I do think this would be one if he does go somewhere else. We know Chelsea want a goalkeeper, right? I think Man United want a goalkeeper. Even City have looked at goalkeepers. Liverpool are probably the only ones that aren't now because they got signed Mamardashvili. It would be a massive, I think, mistake to let this one go by. Like if Mark Gay joins Liverpool, there are other centre backs out there. There really aren't that many goalkeepers out there. I know you have the guy out in Lille. Is it Lucas Chevalier?
He's gone to Villa. Well, going to Villa.
I mean, there you go. And then there's Martinez flying out. So there's a lot going on there, and I feel like we've done enough groundwork, and I think it's clear Trafford probably wants to go to Newcastle. I do think it'll probably be done a week from now, because we're going to hit July, and I think it's just ducks in a row. And we talked about it before. Is there a world where Nick Pope goes the other way? I don't know. But let's see. But I'd be very surprised if this one does pass us by. I think this, for me, it's nearly a sure thing, because I think all parties want this move to happen.
We've put too much effort into this deal. Both sides. But I think the Guehi thing, I think we might have put in 2 or 3 bids, but I think this Trafford deal, we've actually put bids into the point where we had to turn around ourselves and say, we can't do this deal because of PSR, not because we don't want you, not because we're signing someone else, not because of anything other than something. Although it is our fault, it's outside of our control. We'll push the can down the road. And it's just unfortunate that he had such a good season at conceding 7 goals all season, essentially. Like it just made the deal that little bit more difficult to do this summer. It makes perfect sense for it to happen, in my opinion. So I think it will.
Yeah, I think so as well. And as we said, we probably could and should have done this last season. But I also think, Eddie Howe is probably looking at going, well, Nick Pope is fine. Like, let's go and get Mark A. We're happy with Nick Pope. And now it's a case of, and we said it already, even that last game of the season, Nick Pope's kicking just was at its all-time low at the end of the season. So I think it's time to move on. Okay. I mean, hopefully it gets done, because it would be an awful shame to have to go back to square one and try, and suddenly you're trying to find another goalkeeper, or do you bother? And I just think let's get this one done. But I do think there's an element, Chris, I know you're saying give them the money, show them the money. I do think that whatever deal we make first sets the tone for the window in terms of how other clubs are going to look at us. So I think the club need to be seen as not rolling over or not just paying whatever. I think they want to be seen as driving hard bargains and only spending so much. That's the one thing I would say.
What's this idea? Do they really have to make public what they pay? It's undisclosed fee kind of thing. They don't have to say what you want. No.
You don't really, but I think in the PSR world, they're nearly inclined to want to show it for whatever, you know what I mean, depending if it suits them. But you don't hear as many undisclosed, and also like things get leaked probably just more than ever than they used to,
How much did Liverpool buy? What's his name? Nashville for
30 million.
30 million pounds.
He had a buyout clause though, so that was
Yeah.
Wow.
So every player in La Liga has a buyout clause
Yeah.
by the nature of their contracts, and they jumped in at the right time. We were linked to them, I think, or at least we like to think.
Yeah, we
we
right?
were inquiring about him,
But this fella
never
is
bit the
highly
bullet.
coveted, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
But look, I'd be more than happy with Trafford, so we'll stick with that. Okay.
Right.
Alan put a message into our little WhatsApp group, a peek behind the curtain, and called it the triple rejection, which I think one of them is Trafford, technically, is it?
Yes.
In terms of fees. But I think that the topic here is really, and this vexes me, so I'm going to try not to just go off on one. I'm going to let you go first, and I'm going to try and control myself. But we are in this place where if we were to just go by journalists and respectable journalists, and we're talking about journalists we all follow, we all read, we're talking about The Athletic and Chris Waugh, we're talking about Luke Edwards, talking about Mark Douglas. It seems that we're looking at Trafford, we're looking at Anthony Elanga, and we're looking at João Pedro. All English-based / Premier League players who, by the very nature of their existence, command very high fees. Alan, let's just start with Anthony Elanga, because I've listened to a couple of podcasts in the last 2 days where a lot of the talk has been about Elanga. We are rumored to have gone in with a £45 million bid. For context, this is what we paid for Anthony Gordon.
Yes.
The same player has almost the same output over the last 2 seasons in terms of goal contributions as Anthony Gordon. And for me, one of the points I heard that was quite well put was, it's not that Elanga and Gordon are the same, therefore they should cost the same. When we paid 45 million for Anthony Gordon, he didn't have the goal contributions and output that he has now, whereas Elanga now does after one very good season with Forest, plus, when he was there before. But then the flip side is he worth more than 45 million? I'm going to let you have this because I already have strong feelings. Is
he worth more than 45 million? Yes, realistically he is. There's no point saying, he's only worth X. He's worth what Forest value him at the end of the day. And it's unfortunate that we're in such a way hamstrung by money worries that we have to go and penny pinch, because we'd love to be able to just throw the 15 million at him. But Elanga he's lethal. I think he's very, very good, and I love watching him play because he's kind of not one-dimensional, but he beats his man and either has a shot or puts the ball in the box. There's no... He's a Jacob Murphy upgrade, is essentially what he is, and he's exactly what you need. But the problem is, could you go to Spain or Germany or Italy and find someone for 20-25 million who does the exact same job? I personally think you could. I wouldn't be opposed to going outside and like you throw a dart into one of them teams. Adeyemi at Dortmund. Could you get him for 35-40 million? I think you probably could. If you went in and showed them the cash and like 35-40 million, that's it, done and dusted. You'd probably get him. But I'm not going to say no to anything Eddie Howe, Andy Howe, Steve Nixon, whoever they want, bring them in. We've signed 20 players since the takeovers happened. 19.5 of them have been a success. And the only real unsuccessful one was Chris Wood, but he relegated Burnley when we signed him, and then we made our money back off him. So it's pretty much a success in the same sense. So you kind of have to give them their credit, and if they want someone and they're so persistent with going after someone, let them have. Let's trust the lads to see what their vision is. 50 million would be my max, though. I wouldn't be going any higher than 50 million. That's when I'd walk away.
Look, here's the thing. Here's the thing, right? Like, we're not involved in this. We don't know what really goes on, right? But it's just the thing I was thinking about the other day when I was like just about to bite my phone in half, realizing we hadn't signed anyone again this morning, and I was kind of thinking, would whoever's leading these negotiations, right? And I know this might sound very naive, but would they not say, how much do you want from him? And they'd say, well, we value him at this. And why is it always, I'm always reading Newcastle being rejected. Newcastle bid. It was the same with Gahey thing last season. I saw this one about Elanga with the 45 million rejected. I was kind of thinking, well, why did we go in at 45? Surely Forest want 50 or 55 or whatever. Why can't we meet them in the middle somewhere and without throwing in the bid we know is going to get rejected?
Because you don't go in and show your hand straight off the bat. You don't go to someone, how much do you want? Yeah, all right, there you go. Because then everybody who you throw the money at just goes, yeah, I want 70 million. You go in, they go, we want 60 million. We'll give you 40. No. We'll give you 43. No. We'll give you 45. No. We'll give you 48. Maybe. We give you 48 plus a 5% sell-on clause. It's a done deal. That's
FIFA stuff.
Yeah, but you don't just go, how much do you want? 60 million? There you go.
No, I'm not. No, Al, I'm not saying like, look at how much as you were. Sorry, how much do you want from? They say 60. We give them 60. What I'm saying is that if they say, look, we value them at 60 million pounds, right? You could kind of go, well, how much can we offer you that you'd even consider it, so that it's not getting released every 2 days. That
they'd never tell you. They just continually say, we want 60, we want 60, we want 60. They have a number in their heads that they're willing to accept, but they're telling Newcastle they want 60.
I also think the one thing to remember here is timing. Like,
yeah,
they'll be making a big profit on this player.
Yeah.
They got him at a very good time for Man United. His stock was quite low. It was clear he wasn't going to get a game. They're not in a rush to sell him. So they would happily probably go until the last day of the window and then sell him for 45, 48, 50. If no other bids come in, or if we just play hardball. They know we would like him sooner. It doesn't make any difference unless they're planning to spend or reinvest. But like, they're already looking at players that have money. I think that this one for me could be drawn out a bit longer.
Yeah.
Because they're looking at, it's so easy to do it. Elanga, Mbuemo, Semenyo. They're throwing them all in the same bracket. There's a lot of double-digit goal contributions. You can argue who's better, who's younger, whatever, who fits all this kind of stuff. For me, I think we've slightly shown our hand because we tried to get him already was it the summer window, or was it January actually?
No, January. We put a bid in January. Yeah, that deadline day.
They know Eddie Howe likes this player, and I think it's very clear that Eddie Howe thinks he can do something with this player. And I think the reality of the situation is this is a younger player than a younger, similar player to Jacob Murphy, a lot younger with a lot more ceiling and potential that Eddie Howe thinks he can do way more with. That, I mean, obviously, otherwise, why would they be going for him? But Forest are dead right. If I was a Forest fan, I'd be sitting there going, yeah, fuck them. Right? This is Newcastle. This is Saudi owners. If they don't have PSR problems, make them move, whatever. So I do think this could go on for a while. It's a question of do we play that game and go along with it or not?
Are Forest not going for two wingers? You meant from PSG or
it doesn't mean they're going to sell Elanga any sooner. They may kind of think, well, you know, if we get to the last week of the window, we'll take 45 million for him. But why would they do it now on the 20th of June, 26th of June? Why bother? It's not in their interest, you know. So this is the game we're playing. The question is, are we playing the game with it and being patient or not? And this is how it works. This is the transfer window.
I also think this bid could be a bit of a red herring, as they say, where they're going, yeah, we bid for Elanga.
I was going to ask, is there a smoke screen here?
Yeah, I think it could be.
Who is it a smokescreen for?
No, I think it is that we've gone back in with a bid we know they're going to reject on the grounds that we're working on the bid for someone in Europe.
For Leo from AC Milan.
He's not coming to Newcastle. First of all, plays the other side, and is also the most frustrating human being I've ever seen in football. He's worse than Maxi for being selfish and just not passing the ball, and that's an impressive thing to be able to say. Just not going to happen.
Okay, that's Anthony Elanga. I am very close to having a rant about Premier League versus non-Premier League players and where there's value. I'm not ready yet because if I start, I won't stop. And I don't worry, I will get it in before the pod finishes. But Krisho, the third player in the trilogy of Alan's triple rejection is João Pedro. Now, it is common knowledge that Newcastle have long admired João Pedro to the point where we did try to sign him originally from Watford before he went to Brighton, before we even signed Isak. And the one thing about this player, I think since then, I think Eddie Howe is mad for his versatility. He's a very good forward. He's a very talented footballer. He's very good on penalties, actually. He has taken a lot of penalties if FBL is anything to go by. But I think what we're looking at with this player is he can kind of play in any of those three roles in our 4-3-3. And I'll confess to not having seen this firsthand. There's a lot of talk and belief that this guy could drop in as an 8 and almost do a little bit of Joe Linton, but without the brick shithousery of Joe Linton.
Just before Chris jumps in, I have something to say. He came through the youth ranks as a central defensive midfielder.
So there we go.
So yeah, like that's where this is coming from. So he definitely can do it, but he's obviously got.
He hasn't done it
going forward. Yeah, exactly.
And he hasn't done it since being at Watford and obviously Brighton. He's got a lot of creative / attacking and in particular goal scoring assets, and I think that's where he's been deployed a lot. Brighton never really played him as a forward because of a fondness for Danny Welbeck. Fuck Danny Welbeck. We all hate Danny Welbeck on this show. But Chris, I think the big thing here for me about this player, we'll talk about the fee, but I feel like this isn't an answer to the right wing, right forward. This is the versatility. I think Eddie Howe is obsessed with the fact that he knows he can play this guy anywhere and mold him into whatever he needs to be for a particular game.
A baby kangaroo is called a Joey. All right. This guy is a young Joe Linton. This guy is a baby kangaroo. This guy is our left side.
His name, hold on. His name is Joao Pedro, not Joey Pedro. This
is it. Going forward, once we sign him for whatever amount of money it is, his name's going to be Joe Pedro. Yeah, especially up in Newcastle. Well, I'm going to call him Joe Pedro. But I think John Anderson nearly called him Joe Pedro last week. But look at his name's Joe Pedro from now on because he's the young Joe Linton. He could equally be used the left side of midfield, just like Joe Linton plays, as well as playing on the right-hand side or whatever. This is why we're looking to sign him. Look, lads, I've said it before and I'll say it again. He's not worth £60 million. There's not many in this world that are worth £60 million. He most certainly is not. So £60 million would be, God, that'd be hard to take. Even though we get him through and he's got his picture and here we go and all this, it would be hard to take that if we spent 60 million English pounds on João Pedro. Even though he's young, he's Brazilian, he'll probably fit in very well. Eddie will turn him into a bloody £200 million player probably in 2 or 3 seasons, especially if he starts filling in for Joe Linton in the midfield and getting goals as well, working with Bruno and the rest and Tonali. What was the triple bid, right? The triple bid was £125 million, wasn't it?
Yep. So
what was that? Was that 60 for João Pedro?
50, 50 and 25.
50, 50 and 25, right?
Or 55, 45 and 25. I'd probably imagine if the bids aren't to be believed, but what they're saying is 125 for the trade and projected.
Brighton have said, you're out of here. Like, go find another club. You're done, right? No, they haven't.
He had an argument with Van Hecke at the end of the year, and it was him and Hahn. I can guarantee you, Brighton will let him sit and rot in the reserves for 6 months and sell him again in January than sell him on the cheap doors.
Aye, right. I've got smelly Chelsea. I've got smelly Chelsea flavour drifting around here as well, where he wants to stay in London.
He doesn't come across like that. The whole London thing was when they were talking about the Igor, the striker they were looking to sign, who said he wanted to live in London and it was nothing to do with João Pedro. But when something gets translated from Brazilian to English and it gets lost in translation and all that, that's where that type of thing happens. Right, you said he's not worth 60 million. Unfortunately, Brighton paid £35 million for him 2 seasons ago. He's now played in the Premier League and has gotten better and better every year. You saying that is the exact way that Liverpool fans are saying that Isak isn't worth 150 million.
Well, that is. Oh, well, do you know what? I'm going to storm off this podcast right now. How dare you? No, look,
I'm just. It's that's what it comes across like. It's we have
55% of his goals are penalties. Yeah, so he's not exactly ripping the Premier League up. He's scoring penalties. But he's good for him.
He's not a striker.
Does he not play?
And the other thing to remember here is that like Brighton had quite a best way I could describe it is a bit of a transitional season. Like they finished okay, but there was a while where they weren't great. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think they won any of their first 15 games or something.
So like
mad,
even though they always do well against us, but like they weren't brilliant this season. So I think that's also to be taken into account. This probably does set me.
How much would you pay for? Just really quick.
Well, this is now where I'm going to have my rant, Chris. Show. So I think it's time. I'm going to get it out of my system because Alan just threw out the fee there. Like Brighton paid 35 million for Pedro originally from Watford, who bought him for I want to say about 15 million back when he came from Brazil. And look, fair enough, we were in for him at the time, but it's normal that you buy a player for 35 million, 34 million, whatever it was. They do a season or two in the Premier League. Their numbers look good. They play well. Pretty decent enough kind of record in terms of fitness and so on. They're going to expect to maybe not double it, but not far off double their money. The same way we think about Isaac, the same way we probably think about Bruno, the same way we think about everyone. What's annoying is that we're in that position where we're basically looking a bit like Chelsea. Brighton signed Moise Caicedo for like 20 million. He went for 100. Do you want to be that? Yeah, like I just feel like there's an opportunity where we could be, while spending 50 million on a certain player, we should be looking for the 20 and 25 and 30 million players who are worth double that a year and two later. And I'm not saying we aren't, but going by reports, and this is where the rant comes in, we're talking about 3 players who are all now worth double what they were 2 years ago. And that's quite frustrating because now we're being expected to pay premium dollar. And rightly so. To be honest, if you were a fan of those clubs, if you're, on the board of those clubs, you'd be saying, well, these are our top assets. We don't want to lose them. They're worth this to us. Therefore, they're worth this to you. It annoys the fucking hell out of me because like Forest bought Anthony Elanga for about 15 million off Man United, right? They seized an opportunity, probably took a bit of a punt. And now we're willing to pay 45 and they've rejected it. This is a year and a half, maybe 2 years later. It's and that is incredibly frustrating. Granted, look, we were hamstrung by PSR and all this stuff, but if we even had close to 60 million for Gahey last summer, we didn't seem willing to drop 15 or 20 million on a somewhat of a risk, and that is frustrating. The counter argument to this, and people might be listening, saying, "Well, we should be bigger than that. We shouldn't be looking for bargains and all that," but we have to. We're not. Our income, our revenue is microscopic compared to Spurs and Man United. Never mind Man City and Arsenal, Liverpool. Right. So I just feel like there's it. I really hope there's things happening behind the scenes this isn't all we're kind of aiming for, and like that our transfer window is Pedro and Elanga and Trafford, and not other backup signings or other plan Bs or whatever you want to call it, because these might be great players. And look, we could sit here in a year's time and Eddie Howe has turned these players into fucking superstars from a Champions League perspective and all that. But either way, we're still spending a fuckload of money to get them. And that it does get on my nerves because other teams seem to find value. And I don't know why we aren't doing the same. It's probably not as I could rant a bit further. If I'd have brought up that glass of red wine from downstairs, I probably would have. But it just gets on my nerves. I don't know what you think, Alan.
I have a perfect point for you. Elanga is going to cost £50 million. How much would Mateus Sula set you back from Roma? Probably 40 million if you're going on the top end of what they'd ask for.
Maybe, yeah.
He had an immense season in Italy. I would not be opposed to him coming in. He can play as a 10, he can play right wing, he can play right wing back, and he can play up front. Talking about versatile. If there was anyone who, I don't even think he's been linked to us really. If there was anyone that just came out of the blue, I'd be delighted with Sula coming to us, because he's only 22 as well, I think. There's just an awful lot more value to be had outside of the Prem. But the reason I think we aim for the Prem is because we have such little margin for error for players not to fit the bill that Eddie is going. We haven't got the opportunity to go out and buy 2 players and hope one of them works. We have to buy one that does work.
Yeah.
Yes, we can go and sign Scalvini or Botman, but we have Dan Burn, who we know is going to do a job. That's the battle we're up against. We do not have the wiggle room. Like, look at Chelsea. They have 3 squads, 4 squads. Man City could go out and drop 400 million in the last 2 windows. Liverpool have spent 200 million this window already. They're looking at bringing in Guehi to be their 3rd/4th choice centre half. We're looking at all these lads to start for us.
Yeah.
We are so far behind, and we have so much catching up to do that it's a tough slog until we get our foot in that door. We haven't got it in yet. We're not far off getting the foot in the door, but we kept saying it last year. We have a great 13 or 14 players, but after that, we have
nobody.
There's arguably players in our squad that wouldn't start in upper tier championship teams, like Gillespie, Kraft, the likes of Lascelles. Even I don't think will start. Yeah, Longstaff.
Questionable.
Yeah, like would Longstaff start for Sheffield United? I don't think so.
No,
would he start for Everton? I don't think so. Like they're lads who are getting game time for us. We have so much evolving to do as a club, but no time to do it. So we're kind of backed into a corner where we kind of have to go. So that's why I see Eddie with the Premier League proven. Yes, because he needs a squad that he knows is going to be able to do the job that he requires of him.
And then we have to suck it up and say, well, then we're going to have to pay for it. And that's where the beef is. If the club, if they're like, okay, well, we have the money, we can afford to spend this, PSR, etc. Like Liverpool just spent 116 million on Florian Wirtz, right? Is any player worth 116 million?
No.
You know what I mean? Like Caicedo, Rice, these lads aren't worth that money, but that's unfortunately the market that exists. If we have that money and we're willing to spend it, then we'll go and spend it, fine. But what annoys me is if we kind of keep saying, well, we don't really have that, and we have to be tight, and we have to be, a little bit, rigorous in terms of like every couple of pounds counts, then it's like, well, what do you expect is going to happen then? If you're going in to try and bid on a Premier League player, but you're tight for cash, then you're going to be at this for the summer. And if that's the case, fine, we're just going to have to deal with it. But yeah, I still maintain a lot of hope that we are doing more behind the scenes to say. And again, we keep saying this, but it blew my mind the day we signed Sandro Tonali because we didn't even mention his name. And I would love more of that.
Yes.
Alan, good segue though, because the last player we wanted to mention before we finish up is Giorgio Scalvini, who, I mean, look, you and I are noted football manager enthusiasts, right? And Scalvini is like the GOAT of centre back.
He's the wonder kid, yes.
Yeah, but I've followed a lot of Atalanta. We've talked about Bergamo. We've talked about the stadium and Champions League. I've seen this guy play, and I think the one thing I wanted to shout out here really quickly is there is a very quick conclusion that he's injury prone because he's had some injuries. But
an ACL, didn't he?
That he does ACL, but he also had a shoulder injury, and they're not. Let's just say they're not connected. Yeah. We're a bit traumatized by Sven Botman and his repeat injuries, and we know how that goes. The way I look at this is a potentially world-class defender in the same way that Dean Huijsen was.
Yeah.
Who this might be a right place at the right time. Now, could we sign him and he gets injured again? Sure. Could you sign any player and he gets injured straight away? Of course. If this guy's passing a medical, imagine we get that far, obviously, right? And his fees and whatever. If he passes a medical, we sign him. If he passes the medical, he's fit. Any player can get injured after that. But just to go back on the player before we talk about the fee. Clubs have been looking at this guy for about 3 years. And he is massive, first of all. He's unbelievable on the ball. He is largely has been seen as the future of the Italian defense.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one, I think, just while it's kind of relevant note, there's 2 centre backs in Italy that are widely tipped as the future. The other guys just moved to Brighton. Diego
Coppola, yeah.
And Brighton have already moved there. That just again typifies the point here. Brighton know what they're doing and they're going in for it. Scalvini, first of all, what's the fee floating around on this one?
It's seemingly we inquired for about 35 million and we're instantly rejected because he's the crown jewel and he's not for sale. I think if you went back in with £50 million, you could probably prize him out of there.
Yeah.
That sounds like a hell of a lot of money. for the type of player you're talking about here, that's a bargain. If you're getting Giorgio Scalvini out of Atalanta for £50 million, it's a bargain. He's your centre half for the next 10 years. He doesn't have a ceiling. He can reach the tip top. He has the potential to be the next Van Dijk, the next Jaap Stam. He is of that echelon of football player where he could be the best of the best. And if we got him and Sven Botman together, like people were a bit worried about Scalvini not being the quickest and Botman not being the quickest. Like, these are two lads that can read a game so well that they don't need to. And I put it into the group the other day that I think it was against, I actually can't remember who it was against, but last season he ran 70 meters in 7.8 seconds, which is on par with a mid-level sprinter. So he's not slow by any stretch of the imagination. I think it's more of a centre halves always look slow because they're 6'6" and usually built like brick shit houses. He will do a job for you, and if we could get him for anything near to £50 million, I'd snap the hand off you. I'd say thank you very much, and I'd worry about everything else afterwards because this kid is going to be unbelievable.
Have we put in a bid? No, just inquired about it.
No. Seemingly we did have a bid and it was rejected, and basically Atalanta said that he's not for sale. But that's, as we all know, everyone has a price. If you put the money on the table, everyone has a price.
Well, look at it. Does Isaac have a price, or is he going to sign a new? Or is he going to sign a new deal with us?
Isaac has a price, and if he signs a new deal with us, that price will go up again. It's every footballer on planet Earth has a price. Bar
£200 million. I think
that's what you're talking about. Yeah.
But I mean, again, it's about seizing opportunities.
Yes.
Right. Players like this don't come along always. And in particular, now how do I know, right? But like, there could be many clubs in for this player, but we've not heard any talk. And normally you'd hear if Liverpool or Madrid or City or whoever are looking at this player, you hear about it. Like that the young chap for Man City that moved there, Kuzinov, is it Kuzinov, the guy that we were linked with? Huyson, you know, when the big clubs are looking at these players, it comes out. It just does. As far as I know, Newcastle, the first club, big club as well, to be linked with Scalvini at this particular point in the window. There's an opportunity there, and Jesus, like it would be a big signing. There is a risk involved, but there is the potential to sign a world-class player here. And did we take a punt on Botman for a similar situation? Arguably, yes. Played a season with Lille, maybe. Yeah, I think was it the season they won the league as well.
Yes.
But you know, this is probably more riskier than that. But at the same time, players like this and opportunities like this don't come along that often, because the last thing you want to do is end up in a bidding war, because we keep losing bidding wars. That's as simple as that.
Yeah,
we lost bidding wars before, and we probably will continue to lose bidding wars for salary and for fees. So if there's an opportunity there, it's a hell of a deal. But equally is not without risk. So it's, you know, Eddie Howe, Andy Howe, Steve Nixon, are they willing to take chances like that? I don't know. I think things might change if suddenly Romano is tweeting tomorrow, here we go, Mark Gay to Liverpool. Then that suddenly opens up different things. But interesting, we were linked with Diamande before, who we also know very well at Sporting. And apparently now Crystal Palace are looking at him as a backup to Gay. The market's all over the shop, to be honest. Yeah. And it's so early still. I don't know how
There's
long.
2 months to go, lads.
So long. Look, as well as that, like, I don't know whether people I've noticed from the group, not so much, but just there's a lot of different content creators that have been talking about the Newcastle fan base, like just globally, essentially, but mostly in Newcastle or around that are just really losing their minds, and it's getting more and more frustrating every day. We keep getting these this is rejected, we've been turned down for this, there's no approach for that, Liverpool are going to get Isaac. We're watching Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, Man City and so on buy players. Like you said, Liverpool spent 170 million in the last week and a bit with their jersey unveilings and all this, that and the other. And I just think that, like, obviously we need to trust the process. And I do believe that we are going to have at least 1 or 2 players in by the first week of July, maybe first 10 days of July. I don't know who that second player is, but the first player is going to be Trafford. But I just noted that it's, I mean, we are a passionate fan base, but it's really starting to get a little bit out of hand, especially in the last couple of days. By watching other clubs do something and buy players and spend money, it's just getting more and more and more kind of desperate. Like, people are desperate for anything at all. You know, even, you know, just even like the last 2 days, I haven't gone on to check anything because I'm so frustrated with it that I'm just like, no, I'll leave it till July. I'll leave it till the 1st of July. I'll check it then. I'll check it on the 1st of July. And now you've got this thing coming at me, either from people texting me who are Liverpool people, or you go on to any app that has any form of news. It's Isak, Liverpool, Isak, Liverpool, Isak, Liverpool. All just constant. Even though David Ornstein and other people like that have come out and said a deal like that is just highly unlikely. That's never going to happen. And I just wanted to ask you guys now, are you finding that as well, like to be very frustrated with how it's going, or are you kind of a little bit more seasoned with this, that you're all right? We'll just wait and see what it looks like mid-July.
You named 4, if not 5 clubs, 4 clubs there, right? You named Arsenal, Manchester City, Liverpool, and Chelsea.
Yeah.
As much as we are rivals to those clubs in terms of on the pitch and in terms of the Premier League table, we are minnows in terms of money, in terms of revenue, right? Not owners and bank balance and that, whatever. In terms of revenue, right? Now, I don't even want to go into the fact that Chelsea are selling their own buildings and their own teams to themselves. The Premier League need to sort that shit out. But just in terms of revenue, Man United make 10 times more, probably more, than we do, just in terms of money coming in every single year. And that's what matters. It's what's on the books. I'm not saying that, you know, I'm not, I don't even think Man United are our rival anymore. We're a far superior team to Manchester United.
Yeah.
But when it comes to brass tacks, when it comes to spending power, we aren't in the same league as those other 4 teams in particular. They're spending now, in particular, 1 or 2 of them, because of the Club World Cup and because they're seizing opportunities and because they have long-term plans, because they can. And we're not there. We say this before, we've overperformed to finish in the Champions League twice in those 3 seasons. We've overperformed. We spent a ton of money in the very beginning when we signed Isak and we signed Gordon, we signed Bruno. But that was about survival at the time. It wasn't about Champions League. That's what's wild. So I just think people need to realize that as much as we all want signings to come in, and they will, there's no way we're going through this summer window without bringing in a bunch of signings. Then they unfortunately need to be on our terms to an extent. They need to fit in with PSR in the window. There's obviously player sales, which I don't even think we're going to talk about today, lads. I just think bottom line, the signings we make will be on our terms, whereas the likes of Liverpool and Man City and Chelsea are more likely to spend what's being asked of them, whereas we're more likely to haggle and argue over it. And that's where we are. And I think everybody will sleep a lot sounder at night if they just kind of accept that.
Yeah.
And we may miss a target, but we'll get someone else.
Yeah. At the end of the day, and I hate using the term because the term is actually dead, the traditional Big Six are the traditional Big Six for a reason, and it's because they bring in big money, unfortunately.
Yep.
We are not even in the same stratosphere as them when it comes to it. We are on par with the likes of Forest, Villa, Everton, those sides. When it comes to making money, we are so far behind the Big Six that we cannot even step in the ring with them because they will just blow us out of the water. We have to box clever, unfortunately. And that's what it looks like we're doing.
As we said, even though we are on par with these teams in terms of position and points and performance and on the pitch, we're not even close. And it's going to take a while.
I'd also hope that would be a selling point to players, though. If we could turn around to them and go, look, we don't have the financial firepower that these guys have, but look at what we're doing. And look at what we're going to do in 2 years' time. You can get in on the ground floor here. Look at Joe Linton. Look at Bruno. Look at Tonali. These guys will never have to put their hand in their pocket to buy anything in Newcastle ever again. Do you want to go and be in Mbuemo or Cunha at Man United and be booed off the pitch after getting beaten 2-1 at home by Leeds? Or do you want to have a statue built outside St. James's or Leeds Park, whatever we're going to name the new stadium, because you won the Champions League in 10 years' time for Newcastle? I think the story and the project can be a massive, massive selling point for us, and we have to utilize it.
And it has been a selling point, right? They all bought into it. Bruno, Isaac, they all bought into this project. Don't look at what it is now. Let's look at it what it's going to be in 4 or 5 years' time. I am slightly concerned. This is why I think the reason I brought up the point of the fan base like really getting desperate and getting arguing amongst each other. Why are they signing this? Why didn't we go for him? Is because we have overperformed. We're kind of like,
because it's expectations. We see somebody else doing something and we feel, we haven't done anything through windows. Why aren't we doing it? But even if you look at the evidence alone, we're 4 days away from the end of that PSR calendar, and suddenly Fabrizio Romano is tweeting about us, and we're doing a podcast on a triple rejection. There's a reason why we haven't done this podcast 3 weeks ago. Like, I think July is going to change a lot of things. The last thing I'll say, really, and this is for me, I actually think this is a massive lever in terms of a trigger for players wanting to join Newcastle.
Yeah,
I think if and when we, and by we I mean the club, can tweet that Alexander Isak has signed a new contract, a lot more players are going to go, oh, I want to give that.
I want to put the ball in the box for him.
Yeah,
quite literally. And if we can get that done, I actually think that opens up a whole other fucking host of opportunities. So fingers crossed that gets done.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean,
I would forgo.
Yeah,
I'd forgo. So like we need a centre half. We need another striker. We need a right winger. We need a goalkeeper. If we got those 4 and Alexander Isak a new deal, I would be over the fucking moon. That'd be the perfect window for us. Now, don't get me wrong, we need a centre midfielder to replace Willock or Longstaff. But if you said to me, we're getting Isak tied down to a new deal and we're improving these 4 players, that's an 11 out of 10 window for me.
Yeah.
Isak is I don't know if he's the key or the lock, but he's something that will unlock the rest of it, basically.
Yeah.
And I really hope that we literally come into next week and he signed a new deal. But anyway, we won't know until we know. Just to shut up the other fan bases. Lads, we've covered a hell of a lot there. Wow. When we talked about a triple rejection, I was like, we'll probably only get 20 minutes out of that. Well, here we are, 15 minutes later. As discussed, let us know what you think in the comments, particularly on everything we've said about players and transfers and value for money and, spending and attracting targets and all that. As we said, next week, we think it'll be next week, we are going to have a very special guest to talk specifically about transfers, somebody who has his ear to the ground and fingers in the pies a lot closer than us. So keep an eye out for that. That will be following, hopefully next week, at the worst case scenario the week after. And is there anything else we need to discuss? Sell a Cup, we've talked a little bit about that before. Another fixture got added. It's caused a bit of controversy because they've kind of came in late with the second fixture. Main thing for the Irish Mags, we do have a Sell a Cup WhatsApp group. If you're not in that, reach out to any of us. We'll get you added. Plans are starting to mobilize for that. Unless you're expecting a baby and you can't travel, as Alan knows. But sometimes life comes first, and that's a whole different type of summer transfer signing, isn't it, Alan?
Yeah, can't wait.
But see, that we're expecting that to happen before the window closes as well. So we'll keep our eye on that. Fair play. Right. On that glorious note, what a wonderful way to end the podcast. Krisho and Alan, thank you very much for joining me this week. And thank you, Irish Mags listeners, for tuning in. As usual, check out all of our socials below in the comments, theirishmags.com for all of the latest updates. And we will be back, as we said, next week for a transfer special. So until then, lads, howay the lads, slán go fóill, and we'll see you all next week. Say goodbye, gents.
Slán, good luck.